This is Thorn. I use he, him, his, and welcome to some number in the mid to high teens of the Midnight Ballroom podcast in my new place with a new cat and the same goat.
Here in my midnight ballroom, fairy it haunts us all. I danced as dusk in the roses' musk, but I wait for the moon to fall.
And by same goat, I mean also a new goat. And I was hoping Rose would be in the picture. Let me know if you can hear my roommates in the back. It's usually pretty quiet this time of night, but I checked and they don't mind if their indistinct voices are in the background, and I don't think it will affect me either. Like, there's so much I don't mind about this place and the people here because they're like nice and respect my boundaries and stuff. Wow. You can just barely see his nose. And yes, I did bring in my new goat, but first I have to get Ballroom situated. Why did I not do this before? That's because I was getting the camera situated and I figured out that that's too bright up there, so I actually really like the atmospheric lighting here with just the one lamp. Hopefully Banros will not fall. He's sitting on a skein of yarn. It seems to be working so far. He's on a skein of yarn on top of a set of my fingerless gloves, on top of a pillow. He's a very tiny goat. Anyway, and interestingly, the camera is sitting on the candle he always used to sit on, unlit, obviously, but yeah. And this is the second goat. I'm not sure if I mentioned him in a video before. I don't think I had him last podcast, but anyway, this is Minos, the night goat. He's going to sit over here. He's from I did end up asking them to be just a little bit quieter, and I think it will work if people are talking in a normal tone in the kitchen. Then there's the cat whose voice carries all through the house, and that's fine. One cat plus people who respect my boundaries is much better than multiple cats and their owners do not give a shit about my boundaries. So we're not in that situation anymore. Anyway, since I don't know if I'm going to cut any of the previous part, this is Minos, the night goat. He's wrapped in my first thing I made of mosaic crochet. He's based on a pattern called the Gothic goat, I think. I don't remember who did it, but I bought it from someone on Etsy, and I think the pattern's based on Black Phillip, but as I was making him, I was like, I need a name that is like cosmic and black holes and stars and the hunter's moon and the traveler's moon and like there was a lunar eclipse that was happening, and there's another one that happened last night. But what name could fit all of that? And then I remembered that Gwyn, my patron god, as I'm just going to assume you know if you're watching this. Anyway, he had said, wouldn't it be fun if both Ballroom and your other goat were named after aspects of me or gods who are kind of him over in the Minoan tradition that I follow. And I remembered that he had said that because at that moment I realized there is a name that fits all those things that I was wanting to fit. It's Minos, which is, I mean, we think of it as the name of a king, which the Minoan culture is named after, but for us, he's a moon god. And for me, he's a face of Gwyn and vice versa, but also I found him in my world as one of the characters that I didn't know had another existence outside of the world and stories that I create. Yeah. I forgot to do any descriptions. We'll start with my new goat. Despite being newer, he is the older brother of Bonrose because that just fits. Anyway, he's made of brown wool and black bamboo, and he has a gold and silver wire spiral for one eye and a golden button with a flower on it for the other eye, and a rainbow prism triangle on his forehead. And he's wearing a kind of a shawl made of blue and black yarn with the mosaic crochet diamond pattern. And Banros, of course, is a beanie baby goat. He's green, blue, with sparkly horns and hooves. And a perpetually surprised, like, questioning expression, which is one thing that I love. And I have one of my privacy screens behind me. It's one of the tall wooden ones, and there's just one source of light coming in from my right. I figured out how to flip the cameras. So how to flip what the camera's seeing, so you'll finally see, like, this will look like my right hand to you, which it is. Speaking of hands, I do have a new tattoo, yes. It's going around my wrist, and you can't see it very well in this light. Also because my camera doesn't like to focus on close-up things, but it's in the same font I use for the title because I chose that font a long time ago for this, and then I thought, well, since I need a Gothic font, I know there's one that I like because I picked it a long time ago. By the way, the font is Bradley Gratis, so that's the one I use, and that's the one that I have on my skin now. And it says a line of poetry that's the only line of my vows to Gwyn that I'm allowed to share, and it's, "O Gwyn Upneath, my soul's delight." And underneath it has the Awen symbol and some rose vines kind of twining around. The awesome thing about the roses is I showed my tattoo artist. I'll put her info in the description, although I feel like most of you that are following me probably know her, but if you don't, Morpheus Ravenna, awesome, does awesome work in the polytheist sphere and is an artist and tattoo artist, and my housemate, which is amazing because this whole thing is is amazing, and just the fact that the way in which I got out of my parents' house feels like a miracle, and I know that my gods were heavily involved. And anyway, I gave her a reference picture of my art with some roses on it, and she actually chose examples from the picture and traced them into this piece, which I didn't know until after it was done, but I I do remember thinking, huh, that's so cool. Those roses look almost exactly like the ones I used to draw when I drew that style. I'll go ahead and put the picture here of this is the one that I showed as a reference for the type of roses that I tend to used to draw. It's my character Lorcan and Tarlin. You can see her hand. It's a pivotal moment in the story, and for a while I felt like it was going to be maybe the cover of the first book, but now it's a webcomic, or going to be. So but yeah, it's still a piece that I love a lot, so it's nice that I got some of that and some of my art in this. And the thing about the Awen symbol, I feel like I should give a warning for mentioning when I get less confident about things or feel stress, my stutter does show up worse, but it's not exactly the same as when people are anxious and they have some stuttering, but they don't normally have it. But it's close enough that it's hard to explain that it's not quite what's happening. But anyway, I should give a warning for mentioning. Hopefully, you know what I mean when I say ideation. Like there's another word that usually comes before it, but I don't know how to trigger warn for it without actually just saying it. So, in any case, a lot of people get semicolons tattooed on if they're a survivor of that kind of thing, because your life is like a sentence, and the semicolon means it's not over. I was having a coffee break to allow my roommate time to go up the stairs. This is not my mug, it's the house's mug, but it's perfect. I wanted to do this as a Easter egg for, I guess, for those who know this house, which is heavily Raven themed, and this mug has a crow on it and it says coffee, spelled like caw. So yeah. Then I also have my new mug, because I feel like part of my branding on this channel is I have my mug and my auxiliary mug. And this one is from Joann's, I think, and it's black and it has a moon on it, and it says Witch's Brew. And it's a thermos, which is nice. I don't have many of those. Well, it's a mug / thermos. It has a cover, but anyway. So yeah, the semicolon thing. I decided to change the center line of the Awen symbol to a semicolon, and you can barely see it, but it's there. Just the center line's more curved, because I am a survivor of that type of ideation. So, and Gwen's a huge part of that. There's always the fun fact about, you know, he's a death god, like he rules the dead, he's a psychopath, but he's also, like many death gods that I've known or heard about from other people, very much into saving people's lives, like not going before your time. So yeah. And it's amazing to go ahead and have this on here, because I promised it to him a long time ago, and we kind of had And at some point he was like, okay, so let's make a pact, sort of like, I will get you up to the bay, to the bay, to the Bay Area, and then why don't you get this tattoo that you promised me from your favorite from your favorite from your favorite artist? And I've done that now. So I do have more pieces planned, but like that will have to wait. but right now I'm just really happy with this. And yeah, let's see. It has been a while since we talked, and I there's so much that's happened. I don't know where to start really, and I don't want to like keep you here for 2 hours telling everything, but basically I finally got the money from my divorce settlement from my ex, um, which is the reason that I was able to move out, so I can frugally live on that for a while, and it's long enough. I think I can live on it long enough that I feel safe, moving out and working on my business, which I really had to move out of that house. It was not good for me to be there. As my semicolon tattoo attests. And then, weirdly enough, a room in this house where I was already friends with some of the people, it was open this summer when I knew that I was going to get this settlement, but I was like, okay, it's not going to be soon enough, so I better just tell them, thanks for thinking of me, but you know, I don't have my money yet. So that was a really hard wait. But then just before I got the settlement, one of the people in his house was like, hey, this room is coming open a second time, so like we thought we'd reach out to you to see if where you are in the moving out process. And I was like, this is weird timing, because Gwen had told me like you will be out by and up here by 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 Halloween, and I've been waiting so long. I'm like, okay, so it's getting really close to Halloween. When is it happening? Is there still time? And I moved out on October 18th. So that was really close, but he he did it. And my brother Brian came down to help me load my stuff, of which there was not much, but loaded up into the smallest U-Haul they had. They, as in the U-Haul place. It was like a third full. We had to get some random milk crates and other stuff just to make sure it wouldn't slide around. Like, I did not have much stuff, even with the frame of my bed and this. Um, but like this folds up, so um, so yeah, well, Brian goes by he and they, but I always say they because I feel like I kind of made a promise to. It wasn't something that they asked for, but I was just like, oh well, if then I will say they. So I feel like I want to honor that. But um, so, and also I feel like people that appear to be a certain gender, like under the cis gays, probably don't get their other pronoun used a lot. So I like to use the, like, even if that pronoun's correct, I want to use the one that they probably don't hear as much. So yeah, but I was really happy that they came down to help me with that process, and just because it was like emotionally and spiritually big, as well as the physical work of doing it. Um, So they and one of my best friends from back down in LA helped with that. And I sang a song that I had written to say goodbye to the house where I grew up because I'm not going back. I haven't told anyone there yet, but I knew that I was not going to see that house again. And it was a weird feeling, but I was able to say I think I was ready and able to say bye. Goodbye to it. I wanted to say just now goodbye because it sounds more formal, but G's are really hard to say sometimes, so that's why I just say bye. But then we spent like 6 hours driving the U-Haul up here, made a stop to get my futon from a friend that had offered me their a futon that they didn't need. So because I didn't bring my mattress, so I was like, well, I'm gonna need to figure out a mattress, and someone had one, so that was great. And then we came here and we got my stuff moved in. And then about a week later, I went over to Brian's place, which is, I mean, a lot closer than it used to be, but still not like a 5 minutes drive. But anyway, I went over there to um for Halloween, which I've been wanting to since last Halloween, which was the first time I met them in person, and that was an amazing time. And this time was fun too, not quite as like mind blowing in some ways, but just the fact that I'm here and I know I don't have to go back to this place is horribly unsafe for me. Like I can go back here, which is my home now, and also really close to my brother and their family, who I want to be close to. And then the next night we went to a Wardruna concert because someone one of my housemates' friends had tickets they weren't using, so several of us went to this concert, and I was just like, what is my life? Cool. So yeah. And yeah, this is a really fun place to be. It's not only are the people here like very experienced in like how to talk about boundaries and any concerns or conflicts that rise up, which not many do, but it's it just feels like a really safe place to be. But also just physically, it's this gorgeous old Victorian house with a lot of history, and I'm in one of the rooms, actually the only one that used to be the. I think I'm in the one. It's the only downstairs one, so I think it probably used to be the servants' room, which is cool. And um, there's a really weird storage space which looks like a closet, but it's like it starts at waist high, like that's where the floor is, and then it goes up really high, and that's because it used to be where the dumbwaiter was. Um, the Where that opening would have been is ceilinged off, but it's a cool nook where I currently have one of my altars there and a shelf with my clothes, because that's been an ongoing quest finding shelves for all my stuff. But now I do finally have a lot of, of my room set up how I want it. Like I don't have all the shelves that I want and need yet, but it doesn't feel like just a jumbled mess, which, considering I moved out of a hoarder house, which I'm happy to say now, I'm no longer scared of being overheard or like someone stumbling on my channel. Yeah, my parents are pretty bad hoarders. That's one reason why it was so difficult to live there. Because it's not just the stuff; it's the lack of care for anything that's being used, which also extends to the people there. Just like the utter um, neg- the utter neglect of everything. And when something breaks, it's just sort of treated as a force of nature. Like, oh well, that happened. We just have to deal with it. Like, calling someone to fix it, even if they can easily afford it, would be way too hard. That is one of the two animals that live here. The cat that you can hear off screen. I've decided that she and I are like Odo and Quark from DS9, and I'm fine with that. I much prefer her to any of the cats that were at my parents' house. So I'm Odo, by the way. You know, changeling, fairy king. Yeah. Anyway, also gender weird stuff. But yeah, that alien race in Deep Space Nine is called the changelings. In case you're not a Star Trek fan, like I am. Anyway, oh yeah, and in my room, there's also just a tiny little shower, not a sink or toilet or anything, just a shower with a door, and that has been awesome actually. I like having my own shower to just use, and I don't have to worry about. Man, I just kind of went into this trauma fog thinking about the way I used to have to be aware all the time, especially where my dad was. And I'm feeling the urge to say like it's not like he hit me, except for as a kid in the context of spanking, which I do consider hitting, but most of the time since then it's like it wasn't physical, but I was terrified of him. I should probably give a trigger warning for this part too, but I I wasn't sure if he would do or what, if he would do anything or what he would do, but that's part of why I was scared. And I knew that my parents, my mom and sisters, just didn't didn't consider him a threat the way that I knew that he was. And so even after I got top surgery and it was fine for me to be shirtless, I didn't like to be seen by him or my mom because I didn't want to be visibly trans around them. I didn't want to provoke them. And I didn't have my own privacy in my room. Like I did the best I could. I had a canopy that I sewed myself and I had some privacy screens, but I was right next to the front door. The best I could do was just like close up my privacy screens as tight as I could, and hide under the canopy. But and it wasn't like people were trying to see me most of the time, but the fact that I knew they could and that I didn't know what they were thinking or what they would do, and I knew they didn't really care about my boundaries. Like was just really scary. Um, and just having to always be thinking about, like, I'd like to be able to just change clothes in my room, but I had to think about, okay, is someone going to pass by and happen to see me through the cracks in the screen? And I grew up in a situation where, even though I didn't believe this anymore, and I don't think my parents could have forced me to abide by it, but I was taught that like it would be my fault if someone saw me. And it was wild to me to realize that actually most people are consider it the fault of the person who accidentally saw you, if they saw you un, um, undressed or something, like you're the one who was wronged instead of being the one who did something bad by not preventing someone from seeing you, even if you weren't trying to. It's a total Bathsheba situation. Just to reference that story, Bathsheba and King David. All the young women in the oh, there's the train. Cool. All the young women in the church I grew up with, or anyone who was assumed to be that, like a trans guy, we were all Bathsheba. So, yeah. But anyway, that's why it's so great to have my own room with walls and a door. That seems like the bare minimum, but like the fact that I have that and I can lock my door, I haven't needed to, but I can close it. Like people, and the people that have pets, like there's a dog and a cat here, have actively prevented their pets from coming into my room instead of just not caring, which used to be, it used to actually get told off for being mad that one time my sister's cat came in and peed on my stuff. It was only one time, but I was like, okay, I need this to not happen in the future. And I tried very hard not to express the anger I was feeling through text, but she totally told me off. And I'm like, what do you expect me to do? Just smile and be like, oh, thank you for your cat coming in to pee on my stuff. Like, wow. And at the time, she made me feel like I was in the wrong. Wow. Anyway. But yeah, it's nice to just have my own space and privacy. And at one point, I was like, well, I hope that wherever I move into, I'd kind of like to have my own bathroom, and I don't, but that hasn't been a problem because I'm the only room downstairs, and the downstairs bathroom is right across from my room, across the pantry area. And since this is an old house, there's a lot of cool quirks. So that there's a tiny room for the toilet, and then we go wash our hands in the kitchen sink. And the toilet has like this high tank up there, and you pull a chain to flush. um, so, but like since I'm the only downstairs room, most of the people upstairs wouldn't be coming down in the night to use that bathroom because there's one upstairs. Anyway, it's nice to just have my own little space and be able to keep it organized and clean how I want it. I ordered some shelves from an Etsy shop based in Ukraine, I think. Hexagonica Etsy. They have really beautiful, like almost modular shelves made of plywood, and they have these cut out designs on the sides. Like I ordered the the mermaid scale one, the diamond cutout one, and the honeycomb one. So yeah. Then when they got here, I followed the video on put how to how to assemble the shelves. There weren't any screws or anything. It was just like slotting bits of plywood into into each other. It was actually really cool to see how they were put how they came together. It was hard to get the pieces in there sometimes because they were really a snug fit. But I did it, and now I have 3 different shelves, and I still need more. But I've also been able to set up 2 of my at least 3 deity based altars that I'm planning to have. The first one I set up was for Sun Mom. I think I'll go ahead and put a picture of that here. After I set it up, a few hours later, I saw that the setting sun came in through the window right on that wall. And I was like, oh, that's why it needed to be right there on that table. Because I was wondering who I was going to... I was told I could use that table for one of my altars because, like, we're all polytheists in this house. So, of course, we all need altars, which is great. But there's the cat again. So anyway, that was cool, and I was like, yeah, I need some sort of bronze mirror, but where am I going to get one of those? But I need something to catch the sunlight when it's sunset, because like bronze and golden circular things, or basically a bronze mirror or similar objects, are sacred to this goddess. And then the next day I went to our local grocery store, and then I came back, and on the sidewalk under a free sign was this beautiful golden vase, which you can see in the center back there with the golden roses. And it's a beautiful piece. It's like earthenware or something, but it feels really good quality. And so I picked it up, and I was like, wow, thanks. That's exactly what I needed. And to hydrate. As one of my friends said, hydrate before you die straight. Oh no. So, yeah. I didn't actually talk much about crochet this time, but I did a lot of that on my other channel in the video I filmed last night. So I feel like it's nice this time to just like go through some of the more personal and or spiritual aspects of what's been happening. So, but if you want to see my altars, including the other one, which is in my room, for a god who I know as Gwen in a different the metaphors he gives me to explain this are like complicated, but it's like imagine there's a lot of particles, and I'm not meaning actual particles, but like it's like this. There's imagine a like a cloud of particles, and in a certain configuration, they are Gwen. Then the particles change to a different configuration, but it's the same cloud of particles, and that's Minos. That's one way that I was shown that it's kind of that's the connection between these two gods who are also for me the same god but also different. I'm a mystic because I love these things, but they're really hard to explain and put into words. So anyway, Minos is, besides being the night goat, is the god that I have an altar to in my room, which surprised me because I thought it would be maybe for him and Gwyn. Then I'd also have an altar for Gwyn specifically out here, or like in the shrine room. There's a shrine room um, with two life-size statues of different goddesses and a boat, which is not life-size, but it's still amazing. It's several feet long. Anyway, I want my altar for Gwyn to be in there. I think he wants to join this scary awesome feeling of that room because he does scary awesome quite well. And I asked him how am I going to make your altar like really awesome and witchy and terrifying, and he said he had like he had one word, like I'm just thinking of the aliens guy, but it's Gwen. He's like horns. So I do have several horned skull type things that I could put on his altar. Anyway, um, but it turns out for my altar in my room, it's going to be specifically for Minos things, and it's really funny because he also has a type of mirror that's sacred to him, but it's um, silver or like star and moonlight type of things, whereas Sun Mom is the sun, so bronze and gold. Anyway, my silver mirror for Minos is a large oval um, turkey platter that I got at the dollar store, and it's not meant to be reused. It's just like one. It's a very flimsy or fragile feeling piece, but it looks great. Like it's this large silver mirrored oval with like a fancy border, and they thought it was for turkeys, but it's for a moon god instead. So yeah, and it's kind of fun because I have a lot of stuff that I've collected over the years that makes me think of my world or various characters in it. And since Minos to me is one of the major historical and mythological figures in my world, he connects to all of that. So I get to have a lot of my story stuff, and by story the name of the world is art the Otter Lael, so I get to have a lot of my um, Otter Lael stuff on that altar, which includes a lot of my Tarlin stuff because she's the main character in that story, and she's also woof woof dogs outside. She's also important in other ways, which I've talked about before. Thinking about whether I want to say anything else, like there's a lot of really cool stuff I've been learning lately about my past connection to Minos, like in a certain past life, and how that relates to my connection to Tarlin. And I think I will say one cool thing. He asked me, so I knew that I'd known him in that life, which I believe was in the 19th century. And he asked me if I wanted to know what I had called him in that life, because in this life I know him well as Minos, but I I first knew him as Ayava, this character. That's the name that I gave him, and sort of, well, I gave it to him, but also he, like, my inspiration kind of just gave it to me, that this name that was in one of my conlangs, but it's the only name that I have in that conlang that I have both the sounds and the meaning. And the meaning is starlight. And that fits if you know that Minos in the Minoan path is a moon god, but also like the night sky. And sort of the dying and rising king archetype, like he's, oh my god, this cat snuck under my chair and I don't know what she thinks is going to happen. But it's definitely weird to suddenly have fur on your ankle and you're like, whomst. Anyway, so um so he asked me if I thought she had left, but apparently not. Anyway, Minos asked me, do you want to know what you called me in that life? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I saw, like, it took me a minute to like quiet my mind to make sure that I was hearing correctly and not just like hearing mental chatter. Um, but I had this impression of, oh, my part of the light is my computer screen. And it just went dark, I guess, because, or it was going dark, but it's back now. But anyway, speaking of, I had this impression of darkness or the night sky, and then I felt like he kind of pointed upwards, and I looked up in like in my mind's eye and saw this one bright star. Then I thought of the constellation the constellation Orion, and then he told me the name of this star that I know is in that constellation, a star that's very powerful and near the end of its life, and about to create a lot of heavy elements that will create new worlds, which seems very fitting for a sorry, I'm trying to get her to realize that she's not this is not her playground. Anyway, so he told me the name of this star, and it's one that I've heard. I've heard Kayla from Altmods talk about a lot lately, because Kayla loves a movie that shares the name of this star. But obviously this was before the movie existed and it wasn't about that. It was the star itself. I don't know if this is how it's pronounced, aside from the name of the movie, but like the Betelgeuse. So apparently that's what I called Minos, or like the face of Gwyn that I knew in that life, which is so cool to find out. And part of my mythos about Ayava is that so his people are kind of elves with wings, but they're also stars. And once I learned a bit more about as, um, as, astronomy and learned about the different types of stars, I was like, oh, cool. So now they can be different. They can be different types of stars on the Hertzsprung Russell diagram. And I knew that Ayava had to be the most massive and bright type of star. And considering the star I just mentioned is a very massive star, that's kind of cool. Also, like his name means starlight. His name in my conlang Ayava does. It feels like this massive Easter egg that just I was that was there this whole time, and it's taken me a long time to uncover it, but yeah. Um, and I did look up info about to kind of like see to make sure that I was understanding this correctly, because I was like, okay, how long did we know about this star? And apparently we've known about Betelgeuse for a long time, since ancient times. People noticed, oh, that star um, up on up on Orion's shoulder is quite red, and or it was considered it was described as yellow at one point. So they think it might have been in like a yellow giant phase back then, or but yeah, um, I don't know how long we've known that it's a massive star at the end of its life, but I don't I don't really think it matters. I think I still could have had a deeply meaningful reason to call him that back when I did, and or maybe he just told me this is what you can call me, because he kind of did that this time too without me knowing. So my mouth is getting dry, so I think I should end this. Also, as a recording, I'm at 56 minutes, but I'll probably cut some of this because I had to get up and talk to people and deal with the cat and stuff. But it's nothing like the previous times I had to deal with cats on the podcast. So, yeah. I want to see if Tiny Goat has anything to say. Okay. Oh, good. Someone came downstairs and she found someone else to meow at. So I think I'll let you go. Thanks for sticking with me, and let's dance again in our new house at the next midnight.
I look at the sky, it's raining. Starlight, he took my hand. I am the face of the God whose place on your altar you understand. Rebaptize me in a new name. Tell rain he can be a witch too. And thy nameless self, and my heart that melts, remind me to dream of you.